Everything I do has to be the most important thing in my life, because then at least it was worth it. If it just becomes a stepping stone to a goal out there in the horizon, a goal I might never ever get, then everything becomes unimportant and the goal might not happen. I'd rather make everything the most important thing, and then that will lead me to somewhere.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Mads Mikkelsen is an actor. He sat down with me in Midtown Manhattan to talk about the work.
Is there a typical way that you begin your preparation process for a role?
For me, it's the Bible, it's the script. That's the most holy part of the whole thing. So we have this story. And this story has a man behind it, or a woman behind it, that's the director who wants to bring this to life. And then from there on, it's our job to understand exactly what he wants to do with the story. And if there's anything in the script that we can enhance or magnifies or minifies to make that story stronger that he wants to make, that's our job to let him know that we should go this way and we should change that in order to bring your story to life. So for me, that is the absolute, that's the pivot point of everything. This is where it starts and this is where it ends. It's with me from day one to the last day. It's just around all the time.
And what you just said there, sometimes you're saying, I'm seeing this in the story, and so you present that to him or her.
Obviously, if he wants the feeling of, let's say, humiliation on the character, he wants that feeling. I might see that there are bigger ways of doing that. Change that, take that out, leave her out of the equation. Just bring the dog. I don't know. Things like that. It's like, especially obviously with our own characters, we can sometimes see it for other characters as well, right? I mean, so it's all about bringing his vision to life. It's in the book, but there might be even stronger ways to do it when we're there on the day. We can come up with ideas, right?
Yeah. These two movies that are coming out at the same time, Polar and Arctic, you were put in positions in these two movies as an actor. You had to deliver a certain amount of an experience that you're going through that was harrowing, physically and emotionally in both of these movies. If we take a look at Arctic, the thing I really love about this movie is how much we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know anything about this character at all. Is that in the script? Was that like that in the script?
Yeah,
and is that something that attracted you, or were you worried about this?
It was in the script, and I loved it. I worry too often. I mean, this is a kind of script when I turn the pages, I was like, oh, please, don't fall into that trap. And they didn't. And next page, don't fall into that trap. And they didn't. And they kept being very honest to the situation they had at hand. Mm-hmm. So man stranded. We don't know anything about him. And how should we, unless we get a flashback, unless she wakes up and we go down memory lane.
Right.
We don't want to go there. We've done it before. It's done to perfection in some films, and some has not managed it too well. But there is always a risk that you know too much about the character, that it becomes almost banal watching them.
Yeah.
Knowing nothing about the character, all of a sudden we can identify in a different way. Yeah. It could be you, it could be your sister. Right. It's just a person in a situation.
Right.
And the importance he gives to this photo that she carries around, she has a photo of her family. Yeah. The importance it is to him obviously indicates something about what he has back home. Yes. But we don't want to talk about it. Right. We don't need more sympathy. We don't need to go like, oh, I have a family. Oh, then it's even more brutal to be on the ice. No, we get it. Right. We don't need him to have a big fight with his father before the plane crashes and the rest of the film. We need him to make up with the terms and his father. We didn't want to go there. This is about survival. It's actually a film about the enormous difference between surviving and being alive. Mm-hmm. Two very different things. He's a survivor in the beginning, and he becomes alive later on in the film.
That's interesting way to say it, yeah.
So yes, as clean a canvas as we can get, the more important it was for us to hopefully that people could identify in a different way.
But as an actor, having a clean canvas,
Oh, I just make up my story.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, I just make up my story.
So you needed to do that. You have to do that part if it's not there for yourself.
I mean, I don't even have to agree with the director about that.
Right.
We don't even have to talk about it.
Right.
I just make up mine. Why is this important to him? Why does he have that look in his face in this situation? I mean, little things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't have to. I could just say that's just me on the ice. You know.
Right.
But then if it was me, then I would have a past. I do have a history, right?
Right.
But it's nice to detach yourself a little, so I make up a different story than mine. But we were very determined that this is a film about a man who's a comfortable numb, and if nothing happens, he will stay the same. He has determined himself not to move on.
Yeah.
This is where he stays. This he can handle. They will find him.
Right.
But he's basically given up.
Right.
And we don't know. God only knows. Can he do that for 5 years, 10 years? We don't know.
Right.
Then something happens, and from there on, it shakes up his world, and he has to make decisions.
Yeah.
And this is where he becomes alive again.
Yeah.
And so little details like that becomes interesting. That he's super efficient. He
clearly knows what
he's
he's
very
doing
capable.
out there. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
And he's not that crazy capable, to be honest. I mean, most of these things you and I would come up with. I mean, out of necessity.
Yeah.
But he's an engineer, so maybe he's one step ahead of us in some senses. But we didn't want him to be a mastermind of craft. No. This is what we do. This is simplicity, right? So obviously, when he's super capable, he saves the woman, brings her all the way back, very exhausted, and he wants to put her down in the bed. All of a sudden, he realizes that he's just been energetic for a month and now for hours with this woman, and this is the first time he's close to a human being for.
Right.
These little things of humanity that comes why we do it. We didn't write it in. It was just a very given thing all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah.
But the last scene.
Right.
I mean, you're reading the script and you know that this has to happen, that you have to get to this point,
right?
Acting-wise, like you have to get there, and it's all about your performance. Like there's nothing else that is going on in that moment. Like there's nothing to help you. There's not interplay with another actor. It's everything is on you and delivering this.
Yes.
So tell me how you dealt with the stress of that, knowing that scene is coming. How you prepared for that?
The levels of desperation or the levels of emotional outbursts were very hard for us to predict when we read the script or when they wrote it and I read it. I mean, obviously it's extreme situations, but it's very hard to predict exactly. You could have done that in numerous ways, I'm sure. The ends, just desperation kind of feeling. That was it, and anger, maybe. But I think we were caught by surprise in the sense that it was such a rough shoot, and we all had it. We were done. That was it. I was literally carrying her around for 14 hours a day, and lost so much of my body weight. Not because I wanted to be method actor, just because that's what happened. This just happened. Yeah. Meaning that when you're so drained, and there's absolutely not a single piece of vitamin left in your body, then your emotions are right on your skin, and you get surprised with the little things. You hurt everywhere, and then somebody just steps on your foot, and you break down. This is it. That was it. It was over. And I think we all felt that for the end. It was actually shot as the last scene, and we were just done. We were finished, drained. So I think we got a little surprised that it became quite more emotional. Started out panic. Here we go. Then desperation, then enormous anger, and then just giving up and accepting faith, and accepting the most important thing for him, and I guess for her as well, was that at least
they're together.
I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was the poetic peak. That was a mantra in our head, but that it would go in waves like that emotionally was not super planned. It happens when you're in that situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was filmed kind of chronologically, like
as much as we could. We struggled a little chasing the weather in the beginning because Iceland, as they say, if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes because it literally changes like from one thing to the other. And if we had planned a blizzard and we got high sun and we started rigging up for a different scene and then the blizzard came, so eventually we were just like, let's not plan so much. Let's just shoot the scenes in whatever we get. because we were losing a lot of days just trying to chase it. Yeah.
Tell me how hard it is to act without an actor opposite you for most of the time.
Well, I did have, I mean, the second she came, Maria, when she came in the film, it was a blessing. Even though we don't have a lot of interaction,
Right.
it was a blessing to have someone there who was alive and breathing.
Yeah.
There was a reason, not only for the character, but also for me as an actor. So there was a lot of reasons for what I did, you know.
Yeah.
And she could wake up, she could have a clear moment any time, right? So,
Yeah.
so that made the whole situation different. But in general, not having, and just being yourself, doing your thingy, is surprisingly, we always thought about it's easy peasy, we don't have to remember our
Right.
lines, it's going to be great, you
Right.
know, we're just going to do stuff. But there is always a danger of you getting, and this is low-hanging fruit for everybody who hates the film, but there's always a risk of you getting bored of yourself. You're getting sick and tired of yourself. You know, I'm not doing anything, nothing is happening. You know what I mean? I know the story will go somewhere, but it's not happening now, and this is the 10th day I'm sitting here and doing thingies, right? So you start producing something that is not there, something that is only for the audience, but it's not true, it's not honest. So we had to keep in track, stay honest to the story. Let's not divert and try to entertain too much. The story will entertain as much as we have decided it should. But if I start entertaining as well, and have a lot of reactions to everything, you know, I take up the fishing wire and there's no fish. Damn, there's no fish. No, he would not. He's doing this every day.
Right.
He's not super disappointed. It's just the way it is.
That's
You
right.
know, moving on. But there's a risk of you falling into that trap.
Yes.
And so we kept a close eyes on that.
That's really what I love about it, that you guys didn't overdo it ever in any way. And then when
But obviously we had this discussion every day. But not overdoing it. It's like, listen, are we too fucking boring? You know?
Yeah.
Do we need to have a little funny thing going? Should he have a sing for himself? Should he, you know? And all it's like, no. And but we were always concerned about it. So, but I'm glad we were firm.
Tell me your involvement with Polar and how that began, because this is a popular graphic novel. Did you know about it?
No, and that's interesting. I'm actually a big graphic book fan, and I've been a collector since I was a kid. But then I ran out of money and time, and you can just keep going, right? Yeah. So this happened after my time of being dedicated to graphic novels. I loved it when I read it. I thought it was brilliant in the black, white, red. That was it. Almost like I don't know if you know the old Corto Maltese. No, it's also very simplistic things, but the grotesqueness of characters is like you could have a man that's 10 times the size of a normal person on the page, you know, and super cool to read. That's something you can get away with in a graphic novel. You can never do in films, unless you go into let's say a Marvel world where you can do these dimensions. And we were not in that. We had no plans of doing that on a film. So we needed that grotesqueness in a different way.
Right.
So some of the characters have been giving edges and angles that are not necessarily something we see in the film every day. I like the brutality of it. I like the brutality of the character. I love the idea that, well, it's not new, I guess, but you have a person that's so skillful, so beyond skillful when it comes to dealing with people of his own race. But when he becomes dealing with people who have a normal race, he has no clue.
Yeah.
He's completely lost. And I thought there was some nice opportunities to make something quite poetic, but also hopefully get a smile on your lips, because it's awkward. It's so awkward when he has dialogues with the young girl, and when he teaches kids, and he doesn't really get it that they're not grown up, compadre. They're not killers, you know.
Yeah.
And he just thinks that went well. It's all good, you know. So everything is from his spiritual world perspective, you know.
Right.
And then we have this very slow-paced world with two lost souls are kind of slowly moving together. Yeah. We don't see it as a romance. We just see it as two oddballs finding a little space together. And at the same time, you have this madness of a graphic novel chasing them, right? And we know it's going to clash, right? We also know that once it does, that's his world. He knows how to deal with that, and he's actually drowning in the real world, right?
Right. The way you just laid out these lines. I mean, is this something that was worked out with the director, or did you just have this idea coming in, like this is the way this guy is going to take all the emphasis off things and just pop them out?
I think it was there. I mean, somehow the graphic novel has it. I mean, I would say that maybe the character is cooler in the graphic novel in the sense that he has a self-awareness of saying a punchline.
See, I don't like that. I'm glad you didn't go with that.
So the punchline stuff, I personally didn't want to go down that path. I mean, we've seen it a billion of times.
Yeah.
And when you have a guy who's throwing punchlines around, that also means that he is so aware of the world.
Right.
And then we lose something.
Yes.
I'd rather have him, if we laugh, it's because that was fucking awkward what you just said, you know?
Right, that's for the comedy.
And he think that was great. I just said something great. And everybody else is like, no, take it back, idiot, you know? And so I think that's more comedy in that, and there's more poetry in that.
Yeah.
I don't mind playing a character with some awesome punchlines, but that was not this character.
Right.
I didn't see that. So this is how we worked with the script. I mean, we had the graphic novel, we had the writer, and then we started thinking, all of us, and trying to fit that into the boxes.
Right. I mean, that's why a line like, I used to have a dog.
Yeah, I love that.
Is hilarious.
It is hilarious.
But if you had the inflection on it that he's like winking at us.
Yeah.
Because we know he had it. Yeah, it's not funny.
No, we lose the character, and it's also then we make a contract between the audience and the characters, like as if it's just a film,
Right.
you know.
Right. That's what I
And we don't want to go there, right?
Right.
We want him to be honest about, like, he's trying to say something that she likes to talk about. So he says he wants to have a dog, and obviously we all know, yeah, you had it for 1 hour, you fucking idiot. But he's a little proud of having a dog.
Yeah.
It makes him feel normal.
Yeah.
I was normal for a while.
And
you know?
it went its route, and then it ended.
Yeah. He feels normal for a while.
Yeah.
Right? He's trying to do normal things. That's what we really wanted him to do. Like, let's rent a DVD, like these women are talking about. That's a normal thing. Let's try that.
Right.
Buy a dog is a normal thing. And yeah, well, we're not going to give anything away with the dogs thing, but obviously I hadn't seen John Wick at this point, and then when we brought in the dog, people were panicking because it all of a sudden it started looking like a John Wick story, right? And I didn't know about it. And then the writer came up with the brilliant idea of, like, so why not just have the dog for 1 hour?
Talk about these torture scenes. I was sitting very close. I saw this, and it just, I felt like I was like literally inside your skin at some points.
Yeah.
Like I was like, it was ripped open and I was in there.
Yeah.
And then it just seemed like maybe it took like 5 days to film this stuff.
It was a long time. I think it was about.
So how do you sustain?
3 days.
How do you sustain as an actor what you need to sustain in scenes like this to make me feel like I'm inside you?
That there's a given brutality of what we do when we do that for this long. If we hang up there for 2 minutes, that would be a different case. We did it in 3 days, right? So there's every little detail imaginable that can go wrong in a scene like that will go wrong. This is Murphy's Law. And that doesn't mean that we didn't think about everything. We thought about everything. Everything was thought through. But all of a sudden, some blood that looks fantastic in certain situations, all of a sudden, it becomes like super glue between your skinny part of the skin here and the skinny part of your skin here. So every move you did was just basically like ripping your skin off. And we did that maybe 1,000 times a day. And changing that blood to the other blood, which was slippery blood, and we couldn't work with that unless we did. This is a whole, there's a whole scientific thing about the blood thing. But if we need to do different things at the same time, then we need different blood. But if we have to change the blood, it takes forever. So sometimes we just say, let's keep this blood, and we'll go on, right? And so that was an issue, super cold, hanging from like that in a very, very awkward position. Let's put it this way, has not been beneficiary for me in my age. It looks as if we can do it, but I'm telling you, if somebody's hanging like that, 3 minutes, they will never move again in their life. Right. They will be handicapped for life. You ruin your nerves. I mean, if you're passed out, right? So we try to come up with solutions, but it's obviously difficult. It will take a toll. Super brutal. Looks awesome, so we're happy. But all the stunt guys are super skillful. But there's no such thing as having a big fight with bare feet and no top on stone and concrete wall. that you're not
gonna
you
get
will
hurt.
you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's going to get hurt. This is how it works. You know?
Yeah.
So, but if you can't have any padding, it's a different story. And then all of a sudden, it's a really different kind of hurt. It's like, I just want to get out of here. You know?
Right.
So yes, it was brutal. But we wanted it to be brutal. We didn't want him, again, after he, don't listen to this podcast, after he breaks free and he starts cleaning up, we wanted him to be as tired as we could get away with and still be able to do what he does, right? We didn't want him to be all of a sudden, there's no way we could get away with that. We wanted him to be like, just literally seconds before he faints, and there's another guy coming, and it's just leave me the fuck alone, you know? And that feeling, we wanted him to be heavy, tired, wasted, right? To make it messy and not actiony, right?
Right.
And when we do that, it becomes all of a sudden a different kind of stunt. Then, of course, you hurt yourself differently because he's not up to bang, bang, just rolling.
Right.
It's a brutal fall. It hurts really. It has to look brutal, right?
Right.
So when we decided that, and we were all pleased with that, we also realized, oh, it's going to be some long days in there, you know. Yeah.
Right.
But we liked it.
Can we go wide here for a second
we
and
can.
just, you do big movies, you do small movies, you work in English, you work in other languages, of course. Is there a particular road you'd rather go down for the rest of your career, and what is that road?
The simple answer to that is no. I have never planned anything regarding my career as an actor. Everything has happened, and then I've gone the direction I thought, where the opportunity I felt close by, you know, that was closest to me. I was a gymnast, then I, out of coincidence, became a dancer, and out of that, I became an actor. So it's never a childhood dream. It was something that came my way. And from there on, I just wanted to make films, mostly. And then I bumped into, you know, people my age who had the same visions about making films in Denmark. The films we loved about, you know, watching Scorsese, watching things we've never done in Denmark. We all had the same ambition all of a sudden, and we had these groups, and we started out doing films. So I was just super happy. Later on, there was a knock on my door that they wanted me to for an audition for an American film, and that sounded great. So I went that way, and now it's been back and forth for some years, and I don't have any future plans of I definitely want to do that. I definitely want to do that. I'm doing exactly what I love to do. And I also think that everything I do has to be the most important thing in my life, because then at least it was worth it. If it just becomes a stepping stone to a goal out there in the horizon, a goal I might never ever get, then everything becomes unimportant and the goal might not happen. I'd rather make everything the most important thing, and then that will lead me to somewhere. Right. Yeah, that's kind of been my philosophy.
That would appear like you don't have a lot of worries, or you don't have a lot of stress about this then.
Not super stressed. I mean, it would be a lie to say that we don't look at our phone. Once in a while I go, that's been quiet for a while. We all do that, right? Yeah. We said 90% of all actors who don't work, right? So I've been one of the fortunate ones. But then again, I can easily go, if nothing is happening, I have a deliberate break for 3 months. Then I start going like, well, maybe the phone should call now. You know, that's how it works. Right? But I try not to get stressed about it. But I mean, honestly, if that was it, no, I had a fantastic run. If it goes on, it is unbelievable. You know, that's how I look at it.
Mads Mikkelsen, thank you.
You're welcome, compadre.
Really appreciate this.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of IFP, the Independent Filmmaker Project. It's produced by Spencer Rain. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.